That'll give us more space. There we go. Perfect. Anything else I can get for you? No? How are you? That's it. Yeah. I tell people okay. Welcome. Hello. I'm hey John, do you see that red interface right next to you? And there's just to the left right there, and then the master is just a little too high. You could turn the big knob down just a little tiny bit. Perfect. Still buzzing slightly. Awesome. Oh, so much better. Thank you. Great. Well, maybe that's Park's hearing aid. All right. Oh, welcome. I know we got a couple more in there. Come on, ladies. Come join us. Lily's all ready to go here. I know I can start. You can join next. Okay. Welcome everyone to the finale of this very bizarre year. We've made it successfully, might I add. It's been successful, and mostly because you are all really amazing. So actually, before I start, I have just a couple gifts, and then I'm going to introduce our first presenter this evening. But we have so Brenda's amazing. She reminded me that it's my job it's not my job. It's my opportunity, my joy to get to pass out the thank you gifts this year, which is awesome because this is actually one of my favorite things to write thank yous. So this is great for me. Okay. My first one is actually not here. Cinda is rocking the Romantic 20th Century Festival. And it's way outside her comfort zone, but she's still rocking it. And we're so thankful. So in addition to your thank you note, you can pick out one of these bags. There's 5 different scents. So you have to come choose. But yeah, come. April is also not here. She's rocking life. Jessica Kelly is our new secretary. Super exciting. Debbie Lee. She got us through the yeah. This is Yeah, that's for you. And you get one of these. These are from the soap chest downtown Camas. And she's also a personal friend of mine, but she hand makes her own soaps and lip glosses and all the things, and they're really, really nice. Lena, co-chair to the Romantic and 20th Century Festival. So thankful for you. Yes. Yes. Liz Nadella really rocked our composition festival this year, starting something new. Mitch and Brenda, this is being mailed to them. Owners of Portland Piano Company. We couldn't have done so much of what we did this year without them. Very, very thankful. Patty Duthie was an amazing, incredible secretary, and she has passed the reins to Jessica. Judy Ebel, also an amazing treasurer, and our new treasurer is sitting in this room. Yay, Linda. Woo! Park LaFay.
Oh, thank you.
He rocked our vice president position, and then our liaison with Portland Piano Company was just a huge gift. And where is our fearless leader? Where's Brenda? Brenda. Oh, there you are. This is for you, our fearless leader. Can we give her a huge hand? It's been quite a year, and she led us through it all. Okay, I have two final gifts for Natalie and Rob, our presenters, but I'm going to give those to you at the end. You have to wait just for a little bit. Okay. With that, I do want to welcome our first presenter tonight. Okay, so now you have till 7:15-ish. 7:15-ish, because I just took 5 minutes. Yeah, you guys feel free to go grab things, come back. I love these two presenters. It's going to be great conversations. And I think that's a huge part of what we get to do as music educators is learn from one another, network. And Natalie has been in her field 30 years, 36 years. 36 years. She really is a legend in Camas in our community, and she has had such an impactful role on all of our students here locally, my two included. She's an innovator. She fights for new things. She really connects the private world and the public world, and I think that's so phenomenal and overlooked, honestly, in our private sector sometimes. So I really want to. I'm so thankful she's here. She is the Grass Valley Elementary music education teacher, and she has been in the Camas Community School District for 36 years. So with that, I welcome Natalie Wilson. Thank you.
Yes. Yes, please. I'm sorry, except that I just wanted to say thank you. So anyone online, I don't know anyway, but thank you for the year. I mean, you guys have been so supportive. I've not done everything perfect. It's been a challenge. It's been just like this huge, thing that a whole year of just challenges. But we've gotten through it. We've gotten through it great. We've come out successful, and so looking forward to next year. So thank you. And Elizabeth, you've done a great job. Everyone give her a hand. And Park, you did a great job stepping up. And Judy's done a great job. Oh my gosh, we could not have gotten through this year without Judy. I mean, she kept our chapter. I mean, we are here because of her this year too. So just a whole, am I missing anyone? Patty Duthie, she was great with the secretarial stuff, and she has gone through and edited our whole handbook that we're going to get to go through. So we've had a great year this year actually, and we're getting ready to smooth things out and plan next year, and a big bash officers June 11th. So put it on your calendar. It can be an open invite for officers, and I've already invited people that have been in the past, as far as things. Zoom in, Linda, if you're going to be gone. Because Yeah, we have to. Anyway, we'll talk later. Okay, so anyhow, welcome Natalie, welcome Rob. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to stay for the whole thing. We are getting ready to leave at 4 o'clock in the morning tomorrow morning, and we have not. This is our afternoon to get ready, so I'll stay for a little bit. But anyway, I just wanted to say thank you. So not to take your thunder away, but good. Anyway, so glad to have you, and thank you for coming. So.
Oh, I feel so happy, really, to be here. I enjoy sharing my passion with others, whether it's in a small, setting like this or at a national conference, for example. I'll get into my background in a minute, but I'm very grateful for all the things that you guys do as private teachers and the resourcefulness that we have because of your talents and your abilities. So I want to thank you all, of course. I thought I would start by just kind of giving you my background and how I got into teaching jazz at the elementary level, because I think that's where I hold the most unique position in the music world, is at that level. But perhaps understanding the journey that took me there will help you understand that as well. Along with that, I don't want to just be up here talking with you. I would love for you to ask questions, jump in and say, well, what did you think? How did that happen? What made you do blah, blah, blah? I'd prefer it to be more conversational. So historically speaking, as a wee one, I started singing in choir in third grade, started singing in the church choir in fourth grade, started piano in third grade, because that's what we all did in my family. I stopped piano lessons at the end of my sixth grade year, just telling my parents, I'm going to be too busy in junior high school to take piano lessons. However, I accompanied the choirs in junior high. So I've continued playing since then. I started violin in grade 4 and played all the way through high school, concert mistress, but played on the road for a year, a little bit, played in college, etc. Oh my gosh, my nails are too long now. I'm just saying, Dawn. I'm sure you do. No, oh my gosh, that's so fun. No, I might have to think about that. Yeah. Yeah. I grew up in the Gordon Edlund era and of orchestra, and really treasured that experience. And that also has connected to some of my jazz teaching, and I'll go into that for a bit. Right after high school, I toured in a group called Up With People for a year, and played string machine keyboard in the band. So there we go. There's the keyboard still. And had the wonderful opportunity of traveling in Europe for 6 months, and Scandinavia and the East Coast, and really thought, after doing a show in a deaf school, that I wanted to become an interpreter for the deaf. And I got into the research and decided, yeah, I have that passion, but I can't go that far away from my music. I needed to keep my connection with music because it was here. That said, in high school, my first introduction to jazz, vocal jazz, was in the summer between my junior and senior year. And I attended the Sound Station Vocal Jazz Camp at Edmonds Community College under the direction of Frank DeMero. And Frank has been a mentor, advocate, inspiration to me since that time, because it was the first thing around. When we look at vocal jazz as an art form, it began right here in the PAC Northwest. The Pacific Northwest is the birthplace of vocal jazz as an art form, and Frank was very instrumental in that. And when I went to the camp as a high school student, I was hooked. Cast the line, you got me, reel me in. I was so into it. So when I came back to high school, I was teaching my high school teacher how we did some of the jazz things, and went on from there. After Up With People, I went to Western Washington University and stayed there for my whole career, and participated in the jazz choir there with members that had also worked with Frank DeMero. Loved all that experience and decided this is where I want to really focus my training. I was a choral educator, but also a jazz enthusiast. So after getting my degree at Western, I was hired immediately in Camas, and that's where I've been ever since. My entire career has been in one district, which also is very rare as an educator, but I love this community and I love what I do. So I started at Camas High School and middle school with the choral program and the vocal jazz program. And that was the era of amazing vocal jazz programs in all the high schools around. Evergreen, Mountain View, Camas, Battleground, Washougal. We all had amazingly successful, competitive high school vocal jazz programs. And you might be aware that there aren't any now. And fortunately, Heritage High School has a new director who is starting a jazz program again. So I think that it's time for some rebirth to that happening. I enjoyed competing because I think that helps us see where we are and be inspired by others. I don't think competition is the end all to learning, but it is one way for young students to witness how others are performing and glean some of that information. And actually, jazz gives you permission to steal concepts from others and to go, oh, I like how they did that. And to get the students to be better listeners and watchers of their own art form. In Camas, I taught for 18 years at the secondary level and moved to the elementary level. So exactly half of my career was at the secondary choral vocal jazz level. And now this is my 18th year teaching elementary general music. So why jazz at the general music level? I couldn't give up my passion. It speaks to me, the music speaks to me, and I figured it would speak to the kids. So I took my jazz with me, and it's been fun and inspirational to speak at national NAFME conferences, the National ACDA, Choral Directors Association, regional, state, local, all these conferences about jazz at the elementary level and how we learn through that. So it's been exciting for me to be a pioneer in vocal jazz education. I was one of the first to start it. And I have a jazz ensemble well, not this year because of COVID, but at Grass Valley, it's grades 3, 4, 5. We started at grades 5, 6 at JDZ when I taught there originally. And we even sang in New York at the IAJE conference. And people are still speaking about that performance with Kevin Mahogany and John Hollenbeck and Kristen Corbin, all these people, they go, oh, you're the one with the elementary kids? And that was 20 years ago. And it made such an impact on the viewers that they're inspired to do that as well. So that's kind of the background that how I got there. I was inspired in high school, loved the music and it spoke to me, had an amazing program at the secondary level, moved to the elementary level and wanted to keep it going. Naturally, the elementary level, though, provides a lot of challenges and opportunities for new growth and new learning. How can I do this at the elementary level? I've learned a lot of little tricks and things that I never taught at the high school level. So as I teach a piece at the high school level, I would give the rhythm section the music and say, here's your chart, let's get into rehearsal and go. And you know, the bass player will have 8 pages of music. The piano player's got 12 pages of music because of the lyrics and everything. And they would learn it. And I really didn't know how to teach a bass player how to play as well, because I always had qualified high school players that would take the chart and learn it. At the elementary level, though, I love playing bass. I'm not wonderful at it, but I enjoy it because I made myself learn. And my string training helped me with that growing up. I always wanted to play double bass. So now I have 2 double basses. Yeah. Yeah, I know Dawn's going, yeah, where are you? Yeah, I don't play it that well. Actually, I got it for our daughter to play. But the biggest trick I learned, and this is where you as pianists are helpful. Mm-hmm. Okay. And the rest are educators. There we go. Yeah. So the biggest thing I learned is at the high school level, as I said, I would give you the chart and say, here's your chart, learn it. Elementary kids have a hard time looking at the keyboard, turning 8 pages of music, playing, turning 8 pages. I teach by form, and I never was taught to teach that way. So we, in our general music classes, learn a lot about 12-bar blues form. We learn AABA form. So when one of our jazz charts is in AABA, I would handwrite, because there weren't any jazz charts for elementary. I handwrite 8 measures of the A, handwrite 8 measures of the B, and I say mentally cut and paste these. And they put it together. It's AABA, and I can look at the drummers or the pianists and the bass players and go back to the head, and they figure it out. Or we're at the B section, and as a vocalist, when they're soloing, I'd say, okay, when you're getting to the B section, you know you're going to the last A, and then you get the last 4 bars, and they know when to turn around. At the high school, it was never like that. It was learn your notes, find your part, put it together, meld it this way. But this new way of teaching has really helped me. And the connection to my high school orchestral, if my private teacher had told me, oh, this is basically ABA form, introduction, development, recapitulation, my memorization would have been much easier for me, because I would know, oh, I'm at the recapitulation. Now I'm back, I'm at the end. I'm just going to go back to what I played at the beginning, as opposed to rote memorization. And that was a difference for me. I don't recall in piano learning the half steps were between 3, 4, and 7 and 1 on my scales. It was rote memorization, learn this scale, go here, learn this scale, start here. And I remember in college, I did not pass my first piano proficiency test because I used improper fingering on a B major scale. I played it perfectly, 2 octaves up and down, no mistakes, but I had wrong fingering. And so I had to take the test again. It's like, are you kidding me? I did it. Okay. But these things are important. And so the other piece that I've learned is that the best jazz musicians need to know the rules of music, and classical training teaches us the rules of music. We need to know what the foundations are. We need to know these are the traditional things. This is how a chord is built. This is how the structure of the piece is. This is the inflections that could be given. Because jazz musicians are given permission to change, to personalize, to create on their own. But you can't change if you don't know what the original part is. So you have to learn the piece originally in respect to the music, and then be able to change it. And it's the classical training that gives us the ability to do that. So at the jazz choir at Grass Valley, I want them to learn the melody first, and then I want to hear how they interpret it. And I explained that's different. You don't do that with Beethoven. You don't do that with Bach or Vivaldi. You want to be, true to the classical nature of the piece. But when it comes to a contemporary jazz piece, the jazz musicians are flattered when you can take their piece and add something to it that's a little different. And that goes to all those festivals that I would take the students to, is that they go, whoa, they're doing the same song we did. Oh, that was different. Well, what did you like about how they did that? That was different. Well, I thought it was cool that okay, so I'm developing ears, I'm developing a passion for listening, an interest in the change, and an interest in developing their own personal thoughts. So those are some of the basics. I love teaching jazz. And during this past year, when I haven't had my ensemble, it's been really hard, because that is what's here for me. So I haven't had that personal fuel, that get up and I got to get this tune going and listen to the kids swing and listen to them interpret and get that sound coming up. So I've had to find that in different ways as an educator. And I feel like I've done that by building better relationships with the kids. But in the general music class, I still teach a lot of jazz. So April is Jazz Appreciation Month. As I stated, we do 12-bar blues and we play them on boomwhackers. We played it on boomwhackers this year, and we sing the changes. And I can have kindergartners transposing to different keys just by using the 1, the 4, and the 5. And they can see how it fits. I think another thing that I have never seen anyone teach is when I teach the musical alphabet, and this is something we can all consider, I teach it vertically instead of horizontally. Because I discovered that when I write A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, the kids get that. But then when I transfer it to the staff, I can say face on the space, but there are a lot of kids that'll still go top down. But when I teach the music alphabet vertically, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, they see, oh, it goes vertically. Okay. And they transfer it naturally to the staff. So I haven't had that issue. And then they can see, oh, as these notes go here, the pitch goes higher. As the letters go down, the pitch goes lower. It's a natural transition. And I've wondered, why doesn't everybody do it that way? But it's been a fascinating aha moment for me to teach it that way, because it's a natural flow into the musical staff. So we'll learn 1, 4, 5 in the 12-bar blues chords in the key of C, because we can play it on Orff instruments, on boomwhackers. We can play it on ukuleles. They can transfer it to the piano. And then I'll say, in the key of C, 1 is C, and then we can transfer it to, in the key of D, because there are several different keys we can play in on without accidentals. What's the 1? What's the 4? And they can go 1, 2, 3, 4, D, E, F, G. Oh, it doesn't matter that there's an F sharp because we're not playing it. So I go into that later. But when kindergarten can do that, everybody can do it. And so I feel like it sets that foundation in a more strong sense for a lot of the kids. You guys have any thoughts, questions? Yeah, Art?
One of the things that I wanted to play jazz, and so as a classical pianist,
Mm-hmm.
and trying to make this jump to classical from jazz. And I was horrible. And all my friends are like, we thought you were a piano player. How come you can't play jazz? But I remember one time watching, meeting this black man, this jazz pianist. And I said, hey, teach me some stuff about jazz. And he said, well, shut up and just listen and watch. That was rule number 1. But number 2, he said, I want you to play for me. And so I did. I was intimidated. But he said, he was observing and he said, do you sing or hum while you're playing? And I said, no, I don't sing or hum. It's all in my head. And he said, you don't understand the phrasing. And that's where, so with my learning how to be in choir, jazz choir, and Manhattan Transfer was my favorite.
Yeah.
Because you have to listen to all of those harmonies work.
Yeah.
And so as a jazz pianist, it helped me immensely. And I wish that more piano teachers would teach and think about vocalizing those lines, because it would help us to really grasp the musicality. And so I applaud all the vocal people and all the choral people. And I was still around when Lionel Hampton, we did the Lionel Hampton Jazz competition, and it was named after him. So Lionel Hampton, little black man in Idaho, the music school is named after Lionel Hampton. It's a fantastic story. Yes. Anyway, thank you.
And that's the things that we talk about is, and say, that sounded pretty L7. It's pretty square. Can you sing it more like you'd speak it? How would you phrase this if you're speaking? And it needs to be very, very conversational. Where do you breathe in the phrase? Where does that go? And I hear that a lot in, for instance, band performances. There'll be a song we know the lyrics to, and the whole band will take a breath in the middle of a sentence, and it's awkward, sometimes to listen to. But in the jazz, it's a matter of making it very conversational, very relaxed, telling the story. And the phrase I like to use is sing the story. Sing the story. What's the story you're telling? How would you say it? How would you say this sentence? How would you say this sentence? Hey, let's sing it with the phrasing that Linda gave us. All right, now let's sing it with the phrasing that Park gave us. And which one do you like better? And I let the kids choose. I want them to have ownership in the music that they're making. And I think that's really important. Really important. I've always said I play the piano, but I'm not a piano player. I make a lot of mistakes when I play, but as long as I keep going, the kids will keep going. And I know Debbie, you've helped us with accompaniments, and I know Elizabeth, you've helped us with accompaniments, and I sit in awe of your abilities because it's beyond mine. But we all have our gifts and our talents, and the contributions we make to our community and those that we serve is what keeps the music going. My main passion is to keep jazz alive because it's always changing. It's forever changing, and the people that are learning it now are the ones that will determine what happens with that art form 10 years from now. How will they interpret the music? How will that change? Yeah. How do I write my arrangements, or how do the rhythm section parts? Yeah. Good question. So I have several tunes that are published for the jazz choir because, as I stated earlier, there weren't any tunes that are there. So the first thing I look at is the lyric. Lyrics drive the piece. And so there are a lot of jazz standards that would be great to perform, but the lyrics aren't appropriate for kids. Every once in a while, I can change a word here and there, and it'll work. But for the most part, yeah, can't do that. Oh, no, great. No, can't do it. So I started writing pieces, typically in AABA form. And for me, typically when I get a tune in my head, I can sit at the piano and rough it out, and it'll be done in an hour. I can have the harmonies, the two parts. Now, I still have some songs from over 20 years ago that need to get on the computer. Just saying, that's the way it works. But that's not my skill set. And I know they're singable. I know they're usable because my kids have all sung them. My students have sung them. Rhythm section wise, I will write often whole notes in the right hand for the piano. And we talk about the rhythm punches where I want the hits in there. So it will sometimes be a 2-part chord that you could play like this. It might be a 3 and a 6 in the chord. And then I just put a whole note in there. When I teach from the class, when I'm teaching the chart, I teach from the piano, and my piano student sits next to me and watches what I do. But I remind them, you only have 8 measures of an A here that you have to learn. Whole notes. And they can change it because it's easy to do. And I voice them in such a way that they're not hopping all over. It's here. And why is that? Because that's where my skill set is. Elementary level. Oh, no, I didn't say that. But they can easily move from one chord to another. And it's right here. It's just right in my hand. Here, here, here. Bass part wise, it depends on if I'm doing a halftime or a walking bass line. And it's different if I'm putting it in for the piano part as opposed to here or here because of the voicing and the pitches. So I try to think of that. I prefer electric bass on the charts, but I don't have a bass player now, so that can easily transfer to the piano. So I think about the electric bass with walking bass lines using some half steps going up and walking it back down. And teaching the kids in the general music class what those sound like. You hear how it's just walking one to the other, or just going on up, or we're creeping on up, and we have to go from the 1 to the 4 to the 1 again. Da, 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 da. How do you get there? And we have the drummer that would sit behind me, and they can start with a simple hi-hat and snare drum. They can start with that. The ride is really necessary for the drive though. And so then we can take out the snare if we need, but if I have a hi-hat and a ride, I can make the song swing with just those 2 things. One of the biggest discoveries I've had is that with young drummers at the elementary level, the boys want to play. And if they've had experience playing, they're rock drummers with the pulse on 1 and 3. They have a really hard time flipping to a 2/4 pulse. It's really hard for them. And they'll try and try and try, and they'll have great rock band abilities, but they struggle. However, young females who have a good sense of time are very successful on the drum set, and they may have never played. Now, I think about it maturationally, the coordination develops earlier in females than in males at a younger age. So maybe that's part of it. Maybe it's because they haven't had the experience playing on a rock group in 2 and 4, and 1 and 3, putting the pulse on the 2/4. But I have much more success with beginning female drummers at the elementary, like grade 3, they're 8 years old, than with beginning male drummers. And so they sit behind me and I'm playing the piano going, you're on 1 and 3, or again, here we go, there it is, there's your hi-hat. And I play and I talk to them, and then I'll talk the drum parts. And that was a big lesson for me. Was one of my jazz friends, he said, well, do you speak drums to your drummer? And I was like, no, what do you mean? And he said, well, just go dang, dang, a dang, dang, a dump. And the dump is the bass pedal. And that's what I do. And then once, like Park was saying, humming and singing the part, I'll tell him, if you can go digga, 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 dang, dang, dump. And they'll go, I said, no, say it, use your words, say it. And as soon as they say it, it goes right into their hands and their feet, and they can play it wonderfully. And so we talk a lot about that. If you can say it, just like you said, if you can say it, you can play it. And so I just tell them the phrase, and I'll make up some silly sentence, and they'll figure that out and put those pieces together. So the pianist then will be playing with me on the upper end, because if they think that there are 60 singers listening to just them play while they're fledgling around, they get nervous. But when they're playing in the upper register of the keys, you can't hear it as well because they're listening to me pounding down below. They get the confidence as the younger pianist playing up on the upper range. Then I say, I think you got it now. And then I can step away, put them down into the regular register when they get their confidence, and it's a win-win for everybody that way. Did that answer how I put that together? So I start with the whole notes primarily, or I'll add punches for piano. And then sometimes in the singing, we'll change it. You know, we'll go, I think we want to put a rest on beat 3 and come back in on beat 4. And they'll go, yeah, okay. And that's the glory of jazz, is that when you feel it and you want to try something new, you do it. And sometimes you try it and you go, oh yeah, that didn't work. We didn't like that. Let's do it again. And I'll say, oh, that sounded horrible. Let's do that again. And they laugh and they go, okay, let's do that again. And we do it. So I try to make it as freeing as possible. But again, it's the classical training and learning how to do things well that has given a lot of success to my program. Because as a beginning choral music educator, I've actually said to the kids, you guys sound like little kids. Let's do that again. It's like, oh yeah, they are. They're 8, 9, 10, and 11 years old. But as a choral educator, I want them to sing well. I want them to use good choral technique. And so I work a lot of that. I work with the breathing and stand up tall and imaging, and okay, we're going to get that offbeat. We're going to throw the ball down. We're going to bam, or we're going to catch it right there on that offbeat, and give them a lot of physical things to help them understand how that all fits in to the whole picture of making music and not just singing a song. And I think that's important. Do you guys have other questions? Come on, feed me. I've been doing. The group has had great success. I'm very honored and thrilled. You know, as I said earlier, competition isn't everything, but it's a something. It is a way also for me to assess what I am giving to the kids as the educator. because I can see what everybody else is doing. How am I measuring up? So it's more an assessment of me than it is for the kids. We've been fortunate to receive several Downbeat awards through Downbeat Magazine in the junior high division. And so that means we are, in essence, being assessed and competing, I guess, against 7th, 8th, and 9th graders. But we're grades 3, 4, 5. And I take a lot of pride in that because it's a blind audition. And that says, okay, they're still doing some things that are pretty good. We're still in the pocket. And I push the kids hard. I push them really hard. Some kids think that sometimes she's not very nice. Well, okay, sorry. It's not like I woke up this morning saying I don't want to be nice to you today, but let's get this going. And we talk a lot about the message that they share to their audience and appropriate audience behavior, how you respond appropriately in an audience. I don't want them to be playing with things. I'm pretty picky about that because I feel my responsibility as an educator is not just to teach music, it's to educate about music as a whole, how to be a listener, how to be supportive with applause and not screaming and yelling when that's not appropriate, because you're not really listening to what they're doing anyway when you're doing that. You're just worried about how much sound you're making. But when you applaud and give credence to what they're doing, know the reason why you're doing it, not just because other people are. What it means to be a performer, to come up and take a microphone appropriately. Remember to turn it on, because I don't have a sound tech. So they have to turn it on and then turn it off before they put it back in the music stand. How to, quickly take their bow, how to come down and, acknowledge the rhythm section. All those little things that we all as educators want our kids to learn to be appropriate in a public setting. And then also take that passion for them to other performances. That's important. I treasure bringing in pro artists. Patrick Lamb has performed with us 6 different years, I think, and several times he brought his whole band. My friend Kristen Korb is a bass player. She now is a singer bass player. She now lives in Denmark, but she's been at our school 3 times, I believe. Emily Braden is an amazing vocalist, went to Mount Hood Community College, now lives in Harlem, performs professionally everywhere. She's been there twice. High school from Alaska came in just with my jazz connections, because the kids, they're isolated in what they do. There aren't groups around that do what my students do, because they're elementary kids singing jazz, and there aren't any high school jazz groups around anymore. So I have to really work hard for them to see other groups doing what they do. And how will they know what they're doing if it's good, bad, or ugly, unless they hear or are exposed to other groups that are doing the same? Yeah, go ahead. Mm-hmm. Right. The syncopated rhythms? Yeah, that's hard. And a lot of it has to do through speaking. Speaking the phrase, finding a sentence that will work and speak the phrase. And then, for instance, they'll sing a phrase with straight 8th notes. And then I'll ask them, with swung 8th notes, the swing. And then I'll say, okay, let's take out the dot. Let's sing it straight. And they'll go, oh, that's weird. Yeah, well, that's how it's written, but we try to loosen it up, and we do different things. We use our hands, and the idea of an egg rolling on a counter, dang-ga, 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 dang, and it's and the hook is on the top of the circle. That's a way that we've done it as well. So it is hard for them to feel safe within themselves, to be free to just go with it. And once I try, and it doesn't work for everybody, I'm not successful with every kid, I would say, because we're all different. Once they will relax and fall into it, they realize, oh, that's what I'm doing. But yeah, it is hard to get that relaxation. It's kind of like the difference if anybody's a horseback rider. You know, you can sit heavy in the seat and just ride along with the horse, or you can be tense and you're bouncing like this all the time. So you got to learn to just sit down in with it and let it take you for a ride. What? Did that one make sense to you guys? I know, you got to just sit there and ride. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yes. No, I get that. You know, yeah. You know, I think it's listening in the jazz field. Listening is what's really, really important. Learning through listening and not necessarily transcribing or having to get into that level, but the more you listen, the better you are. And yet we're going to listen to the things that we're passionate about, right? The things that we enjoy. So if we don't enjoy jazz, we're not going to listen to jazz. I do think the main reason people say they don't like jazz is because they don't understand the form. And so when a soloist starts playing improvisation, they don't know what's happening. And if it's improvisation that's just wild, crazy, spaghetti improv, it's all over the place, most of us will turn off. But if they can keep elements of the melody in the improvisation and they understand the form of the song by listening to the original foundation, you've got to set the foundation of the song first before you change it. Otherwise, we don't know what you're changing. And I think that's why the general community doesn't understand and enjoy jazz. So we have to teach what the melody of the song is. The first time through the form, you sing it pretty straight, well, not straight eighth notes, but, pretty true to what the tune is, what the melody is, establish what that is, and then you can change it. And if I can develop a community of listeners that start to understand it that way, that helps. But I know even I will sometimes go, whoa, I've totally lost where they are. And yet my daughter, who is an amazing musician, she's a great vocalist, she plays bass, she does all that, she'll just go, Mom, people don't listen to music that way. I said, well, I get that. I'm kind of interesting that way. But if I can at least toss it out there, and if somebody gets it and they start to listen to it that way, it helps open the ears and eyes of the jazz listening community. Yeah.
Blew my mind thinking that there's no vocal jazz being taught in high school. Didn't even think about vocal jazz in high school because in 86, 87, 88, here in Vancouver, we were all going to Evergreen and doing the competitions, and we all had vocal jazz, and we would dance differently or dress differently. And I can't imagine, I just had I didn't even think about it. But the idea of it not being around it's like, well, then what do I do?
Yeah, it blows my mind.
Yeah, it's like, wow, okay.
Yeah, I didn't
So
know it
that's
died.
the
My daughter was in year 2000 at Mountain View in vocal jazz. So I didn't know that it had died either.
Yeah, it's not it. Darcy Schmidt still has a program at Battleground High
Yep.
School.
That's
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
But she's the only one until now really doing. He's a big jazz.
Yeah, Darcy's great. Okay, next one is I'm trying to visualize your day to do this. So I've been to elementary school music classes as part of a degree. I got to observe. Yeah. And then I have a son that's in elementary school. So the normal way this works is you have one class right after another, and you see the same kids, but they're just, and it's kind of a quick thing, and they're in and out. So I'm visualizing you doing that with 6 classes, 5 classes, and you're doing it over and over and over again, or you have 2 classes that are really kind of like getting it. So you focus more on those two classes. The other classes you still kind of do stuff with. And I'm making this up entirely. But maybe two, you're like grooving and it's really working, and the other two just aren't, but you're still doing stuff. Or you're doing it with all six and you're like on all day long. So how long do you have with these kids to do this? 45 minutes, I'm just going to guess. And how does that work if you're doing it one after the other without going like burnout style?
Good question. Okay, questions. Okay. Yes, I teach K-5. And yes, this year I have 6 classes a day, but often it'll be 7. And I often will do the same thing with all 7 classes, kindergarten through 5th grade. So of course, I'm going to get more accomplished at the older levels than the younger levels. I am able to keep doing that because it's what fuels me. It's what gives me energy. It is the jazz community. They're my people. That's where I feel really comfortable. And it's hard for me sometimes to explain the how and the why I do what I do, because I just do it. It's like the rest of us as musicians, if we had to explain how we know where our finger just goes without looking at it on a bass guitar, well, I just do it. I practiced. I just do it. So the kids in my program, because they start learning it in kindergarten, they're in essence growing up with it. And so when Grass Valley opened 11 years ago, I wrote a school song, and it's a 12-bar blues melody. Shocking. Because then I'm able to throw in the stylistic things that I want them to be learning. And so they're practicing it often. They're hearing it often. So I typically have 45-minute classes, but this year it's 30 with the extended. It's a little different this year, and I teach everybody. So in April, the Jazz Appreciation Month, we will go into writing lyrics and creating blues tunes. One year we made 23 blues tunes, with the kids making up a lyric in a 45-minute class. And, there are days I go, ooh, I'm getting tired. That sounds like the one I wrote yesterday. Okay, what are we going to do? But I don't know. I don't know how I keep going, other than I know that that's my battery. Mhm.
Music teachers don't do anything like that. So there's no standard of what a elementary music school teacher teaches. Some of them are the PE teacher that teaches it. So like my kids' class, they do like the standard recorder. They do the standard, I think they did an ukulele. They do whatever it is, but it's nothing like that, of course, because it takes you to do that. And nobody else except for you could do that. You could probably train people to do it, but if it's not in their heart, they're going to burn out or they're not going to enjoy it, right? So it's so coming from an area where I work a lot with a lot of kids. It could be a thing where if it's not your passion, it's over. And if these certain kids could thrive in your class, and some kids don't really like it, it's like you don't understand that you've got Natalie is the teacher, right? And these other kids that will thrive with Natalie don't get Natalie. And it's just a matter of where you live and what school you go to get you. And it's I wish there was more small samples of what you do in other schools. So I wish that would happen.
I am very involved in the Jazz Education Network, which grew out of IAJE, if you're familiar with that organization. I'm the K-8 General Music Choral Chair, I guess, for Jen. And when I do presentations at conferences, it is on exactly what you're saying, how to do what I do. Here is a lesson. Here are 2 lessons. Here is how I play boomwhackers. I was just sharing one with my colleague because I literally do it with a piece of notebook paper, and I took colored Sharpies of the boomwhacker colors and I write C, E, G. in the colors. And then I did my 12-bar blues form, and I play 12-bar blues on a Jamie Abersold recording, and I point to it, and they'll go 1, 2, 3, rest, 1, 2, and they can read the colors, and all the kids can do that. And so I am trying to feed people throughout the US basically how to take these lessons. Because in the elementary level, one of the things that's difficult is that we all come from different backgrounds. We have state standards to follow, but we can approach them in a myriad of ways. If we're Kodai trained, if we are ORF trained, if we're random trained, like apparently I was, we have to find our way that we're going to speak the same language. And so it's hard to collaborate because I'm not ORF trained, but I've learned to teach with an ORF style. I've learned to teach with the Natalie Wilson style, like the horizontal alphabet. That's a new thing. I don't know how that gets out there, but the more that I can get out and share what I do with different people, it fuels it. And we are seeing an increase of educators who are teaching at the elementary level. My focus group, if I have a target group, it's with collegiate undergrad music ed students. So I did present at Central over a year ago for their music ed. Central Washington University has one of the finest student music organizations, and they've been active for years. So they brought me out and I did a workshop, and every time I do it with collegiate students, they're like, wow, I never thought I could teach jazz at the elementary level. And I explained to them that when I came out of college, I wanted to have that killer high school program. And I had that. And then I tell them, but I've never taught more jazz than ever until I moved to the elementary level. Because at the high school level, it was mostly note pounding, tune learning. At the elementary level, it's teaching the roots, teaching the history, teaching the form, teaching the structure of the music. And that's a huge difference. And if I can get 1 or 2 collegiate kids that go, wow, I can still teach jazz and have a life outside of school. Because those high school programs like I had, they were busy. We were always busy. We were traveling. Thank goodness my husband supported the number of weekends I was gone at workshops and festivals and things. But I'm actually teaching more jazz now at the elementary level. So probably 7, 8 years ago, I think there's got to be a way to do this on Skype where you don't have to pay me to go to the universities. And now look where we are. We are right in the midst of that. And my new publisher is a dear friend of mine, and he's really into that. So I can do the undergrad programs. I did a session with UPS as well a year ago in March, right after COVID started. It was like the week after we were home for COVID. And we had already arranged to do this workshop with her students. And one of the kids goes, I think that's what I want to do now. So if I can just keep, again, casting that out there and reeling in one at a time and encouraging people to do it, then I feel there's hope. But until then, the other programs, they are very well established, important programs, the ORF Kodai programs. They're important for us to learn. I see jazz, this is one of the things that I know we talked about bringing in. Jazz is America's cultural music. It was born here in the United States. It's celebrated worldwide. And most of us as educators avoid our own cultural music. We will reach out to do that Australian folk song, to do the Estonian music, to do the Chinese song, the cherry blossom Japanese songs. We will work really hard to perform and to learn stylistic cultural music of other countries, but we avoid our own. And that is a travesty to me. And I think typically it's because we don't understand it. And as a choral educator, it's like, well, I don't know how to teach a rhythm section. I'm a choral director. And so they're like, forget that. No, I'm going to go to something else. And I've had many conversations with choral educators. And I said, well, how did you learn to do that Brahms piece stylistically appropriate? Well, I listened. I called this director who did it. Oh, and you can't do that for jazz? Oh, And it's like, okay, well, how did you learn to do those other pieces? That's how you learn to do jazz. Yeah, but this other group's doing that. Well, okay, well, why can't you do this? It's all the same, but it really breaks my heart that we won't do our own cultural music. And yet, when foreign groups come to the US, what do they always try to perform? A Gershwin piece, a swing tune, a jazz. Yes.
Yes, by including American music, let's have a musical theater. Every high school has all those musicals. All those kids would come that she teaches and compete uh, with their musical theater and have that division. And I say that Clark County should do it. Forget about what the state is doing. Just do it here first, and then maybe they'll start realizing, they just make a winner for Clark County. Let it be known Clark County is doing musical theater in solo ensemble as well. So, I mean, that's American music. That's all. It is. And if people would understand that.
There's just so much to be said with the art form. It's ever living, breathing, changing, evolving. And I just, I don't know, I might retire in the next 4 years, maybe 4 more. 40 years teaching might be enough, Cinda, I think you're so right. I'll probably just keep going. But, as I look, I just keep saying that's my passion, to spread the word, to let people know, yes, you can do this. And I'm always seeing the collegiate directors going, oh my gosh, I love that. I said, okay, so tell me when your class is, Zoom me in. I'm a cheap date right now. Just, buy me coffee at the next conference. Okay, let's do this. Let's just. You're right. I just keep going. Yeah, I know.
Club in Paris. And then we had 3 days at the south of France. And then we had 3 days in Monaco. And then we joined Dizzy Gillespie and Ray Charles for 3 days in The Hague. And it was 24 hours jazz in these auditoriums. 24 hours. That's a lot. I came back from that trip going, I don't care if I ever hear jazz again. So,
that happens. That's it. I'll do the same thing. But I do the same at the American Choral Directors Conference too. I will go there and it's like, I'm on choral overload. I need a break. I like the music. I love the music, but I cannot go sit for another hour and listen to another choir. And I love it, but yes, it's easy. You drink too much LaCroix and you go, yeah, I got to drink something else for a while. I mean, it's how it is. So yeah, that's you. Yeah. Mhm. Well, first of all, I thank you all. And I know I started with that, but it's real because the kids that I cannot serve in my classroom, you are able to serve. And I'm really grateful for that because that's important. Um, I know that we have talked, we in the music department at Camas, in 36 years, how can we boost the relationship with the private teachers? One of the things is if we have an accurate list of teachers that have room in your schedule, because I know you're often quite full because there aren't any spaces, that would be helpful. Another way would be for the private educators to be encouraging the students to continue in their school music programs. Because it gets to a point where they go, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do this, I don't have time for choir anymore. The instrumental students tend to stay with the programs more and longer. Often the thought is that they've invested in that instrument, and there's sometimes a feeling of choral music of, oh, well, you've sung, you can sing anytime, try something else, as opposed to the in-depth learning of the instrument and the music and the experiences that are there. Having a common language of support might be helpful. Maybe collaborating. I'd be happy to work with you or with someone else on some common language that we can all be telling our students. These are some things that are important in music. I know personally with COVID, where do we go when we're in times of stress and depression? We go to the arts. And that's what soothes the soul. And it is the biggest time right now for advocacy and teaching online. I've shared with my colleagues, this is the best advocacy we've ever had, because those parents are sitting on the other side of that camera, off camera, and they're watching and listening to everything I say and do, and the concepts I'm teaching about music and arts and life and feelings and listening. And we need to learn to do that. So the more we can support each other's programs verbally, I think is going to be a huge benefit. I know that your schedules get very full very fast, and that's a hard thing to fix unless more people come in. But if we have an accurate list, when we do have students that say, hey, I want to take piano from someone, or I want to take voice from someone, who can I take? And I say, well, here's a list. Because I can't just say, well, I really think you should see Linda. I'm not supposed to do that, to specifically say a person. I could say, well, I've known people to take lessons from this person and this person and this person, but call them and find out, make sure it's a good fit. Everybody's styles are different. What skills are you wanting to learn? I think that's important. But trying to build that bridge between the two sectors, I agree, is really important, especially now when we need to teach emotion through arts and music.
And I said to her father, I said, oh, just, bring her back when she's ready. And he said, oh, no, she doesn't want to quit. It's what keeps her going, is the piano, is the music. And she never stopped. So it's so important to inside when you have music in you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's how to listen. You don't have to necessarily take and learn the instrument. It's learning to appreciate, because they're the people who will be buying the music in the future and going to the concerts in the future. And that's where the vast majority I see of my students. They're not, and I've told them I could take all my efforts and make you all into the best musicians on the planet. But the reality is that's not where you're going to want to go. What I want is for you to learn to love and appreciate music, whatever style, whatever genre, whatever form you're going to enjoy. I want you to have a lifelong appreciation of it. And that's my goal. That's my umbrella of my teaching. But jazz is the vehicle that I use to do that. So thank you so much. And I didn't need the music stand or my notes. I just started talking. Thank you. You did. Well done.
Lily, Cinda owned 14 cents on a Disney movie that she wrote.
That is wonderful.
Well, is she not the most optimistic, encouraging person? I just think Natalie is, we're so blessed to have her in her school district here. And she's a true advocate for the arts, and very, very thankful for her. Probably are.
Yeah, and mine's open to anybody. I mean, there's no audition, and we have some non-pitch matchers, but I put them in between two strong singers and get that stereo going, and they figure it out. But, yeah.
Natalie, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
That was inspirational. We all.
Kathy, no, you just lip sync. Just lip sync. Poor thing. And so she was afraid that her children were going to be this way. I said, no, it has nothing to do with just fine. You're the problem.
Oh, Lordy. Lily, did you have any questions? Lily's our strings teacher. We have strings represented.
I am just really excited to hear Natalie talk and to know who she is. I'm sorry I'm not there in person to meet her, but I've always wanted to meet you being in Camas. So I'm really happy to, even over Zoom, to have this chance to hear you talk, and your program sounds amazing.
Thank you.
So yeah, I'd love to have a conversation with you sometime
Hi.
about what I could do, or
Especially
I would just love to talk to you sometime.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah,
you can find her at Grass Valley Elementary.
yeah,
And then my
great.
group, I do have a YouTube channel. Oh, shameless plug, right? Grass Valley Vocal Jazz on YouTube, and I think there are about 50 of our songs that we've done over the course of the past 10 years. So
Wow.
different arrangements and things. So they're not perfect. They're kids. They're doing the best they can, and they swing hard. You know, they have fun, but it's a taste of what we do.
That's great.
I said thank you.
These are the elementary school kids who competed in the middle school level and got awarded several times, if I remember correctly, with a Downbeat magazine.
Right. Several times, I think.
Yeah.
We won the division 1 year.
Yes.
It's a something, right?
My son Michael got to be in the choir for a couple years and got to perform with Michael Allen Harrison, and it was huge for him. He really enjoyed it. It's a great experience.
Play afterwards, he was a stride jazz pianist, and I just loved this stuff. Just thought it was so cool. Yeah, I remember that. And so I bought one of her books, and I picked a piece and I worked on it. And then my sister came to visit, and I played it for her. I said, "Is I groovy?" And she said, "No." and I just always, I'm just in this square box. But if I'm with somebody like Gail Beacock invited me one time to play the Claude Bowling, which I love, and it was piano, bass, drums, and flute.
Right.
And so with them playing, I can get into it, you know, as they're being groovy, I can do that. But left on my own,
It's hard.
it's just.
It's L7.
L7. All right, everyone. Well, if you want to refill your glasses, now is the time, because I am so excited. Oh, they're trying to do an L. Square. This is entertaining. I should get a video of this. I am so pleased to welcome our very own member, Rob Melton, to our final presentation of the year, of this interesting year that we've found ourselves in. And Rob is the Opus director, owner, manager, founder. I could keep going on with more words, but he has 2 offices here in Camas and another one in Ridgefield, and he is a staple in the music education world of Clark County. Is this your first year actually joining our group?
Yes.
Welcome. And so, without further ado, we'll just get right to it. This is Rob.
Well, I had to use the restroom just a little while ago, so I don't know if anybody else wants to take a quick restroom break before I go. If we're all good, then I'm just going to move on. Okay. okay. Just I do this train teachers. I sometimes do this. Natalie and I have a lot in common in that we work with multiple kids in a group setting, and we want to get as many students playing together as possible. At Opus, we're mainly a private lesson studio. We have around 270 students right now. We do have piano teams, which is our group classes, piano team, guitar teams. We call them teams because we teach them like teams with teachers, orchestra teams, and then we have like kids ukulele band. These are all group classes. We call them foundation classes, preschool music classes, a class called Superstars, where it's exploratory, 5.5 to 7-year-olds who do a lot of different instruments, but it's focused around rhythm. Piano, ukulele, and voice, which is really just ear training. And then we have some voice group classes and such. But still the high majority of our students are in private lessons. And so when I was taking lessons as a young man of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, I was taking private lessons in some guy's basement because, that's kind of like private lessons are in Idaho and anywhere. And I would go down to this stingy basement and I was taking guitar lessons, and I would go home and I'd be like playing in front of my concert posters, thinking there's got to be more to this. There's got to be more than just this. And I was searching to be able to be with groups, be with a group. And it's just not easy unless you're in Natalie's class, to be in a group. And that's what I wanted to do. So I wanted to be in a group. I got in a group, but the dad was the mentor. And, when he was nice, it was fun to be around him. But when he was really mean to us, it wasn't that fun to be around him. And he kind of found us gigs and stuff. And this is like 12, 13, 14. And then, and then we move on after that. And I still was thinking, it's got to be something better than that for people like me that want to be in a group of playing music. And then I moved on with my life, and then I ended up at PSU, and I wanted to be a piano major, even though I've never taken a piano lesson in my life. And Harold Gray auditioned me and, patted me on the back and said, well, you can always join the choir. And so I said, well, I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to give me 2 of the best piano teachers. I'm going to take a year and come back and audition again. And so he liked that idea. So I did that. And I spend 7, 8, 10 hours a day on the piano. And I was by myself, which is something I don't like, to play music by myself. It's okay. And I love playing, but that's not what my gig is. So a year later, I auditioned again, and he's like, well, that's pretty good progress in a year, so we'll give you a year trial. So I was in, and then I finally made it in. It was great. So, 4 years later, I graduate just with a regular bachelor's degree as a classical piano. Even though I liked jazz, I wanted classical so I could study notation. I just wanted notation. And jazz is notation, but not nearly as heavy as having to memorize 45 minutes worth of music. So, and then as my master's program, I wanted to go into teaching because I knew that I was going to create something that I wish I would have had. So then I graduated. I learned as many instruments and bought as many instruments as I could. So I learned how to play flute, violin, and on it goes. So I could go in and teach all the kids to get this thing started off the ground. So we did. But while I was teaching that, I kept thinking, well, all these kids are learning the primary chords of C, G, D, and A. That's like the basic 4 that you learn. And so I decided, why don't we just all kind of learn the same song so we can kind of play together whenever we want. And so I hired more and more teachers. They were on board with this idea of creating some type of like chord charts that would work for everybody. And that grew into what's called the jam band. And so the jam band is basically for all of our beginning students, no matter what age they are. And as they're learning our rhythmic, going through our rhythmic system, our primary chord system, they're learning these set of songs in C, G, D, A. And they're improvising a lot in these songs because it's a jam band, because that in every song, there's a jam section where everybody gets to improvise kind of in a jazz kind of style where you just kind of make it up. So how does that work? How do we do that? And then we had to do gigs because the kids wanted to play out. I mean, we would go in, the private student would be going to this private student during their lesson because they knew they were working on the jam band songs. So all the teachers collaborate, and these students are going from room to room to room in our studio, joining each other's lessons because they're working on a specific jam band song. So the teachers love doing this because it's not just a half-hour lesson of what normal is. Sometimes it is, most of the time probably, but there's a lot of going in different rooms with each other. So I brought some stuff here to kind of give you an example of what it looks like. So why don't I just hand these around? Something that I would want in a community like ours is helping each other with ideas and with concepts and curriculum and challenges and struggles and ideas and resources for teachers, for me, for all kinds of different things. So on the front page there, you can kind of see what the jam band is. So this is what we have on our website. Jam band is designed to put practice into play. Our beginners of all ages learn the jam band songs in their lessons as part of the curriculum. The jam band is designed to get a student with no experience in music to be able to play or jam with the jam band within 3 months. That's our goal. And the band plays various gigs around the community and is mentored by our teachers and our upper level students. So a lot of our upper level students begin to mentor the jam band. Once you get your jam band t-shirt, you're a member for life. So that's one of the things about the jam band is when you do a jam band gig, you get this t-shirt. And that means whenever Opus is doing a jam band and you're wearing this t-shirt, you can sit in with the band and because you already know a song. So these kids want the shirt that they see around, but they can't buy one because they're not for sale. You have to do a jam band gig to get it. So all Opus students remember the jam band. We know about that. We have announcements. These families, when they sign up, say, yes, I want to be on the jam band email list. So when we send out an email, we can. Of course, COVID, that's not happened in a year and a half. And even if you only know 1 or 2 jam band songs, our high school students that can get their volunteer hours by volunteering with the jam band. So our high school's looking for hours, and they can go in and help the teachers do a jam band gig. So the performances are highly interactive in that we bring more instruments than we're going to play. So we usually have a set of conga drums, a bag of shakers. People that are watching this, it's not just us playing. We're bringing it to them. We have a set of bongos, and they're really low quality, so you can't hear them. So they're really weak, and they're not that great. These ones here would be for like the jam band, like the drummer. I can't take a drum set with me. It won't work. So we usually have a djembe drum on a stand and a bongo drum, and then we do bring like a little hi-hat. But then there's tons of little instruments. So the kids can come up and jam with us because we're doing like elementary school carnivals. Bring your dolly and dessert to the library day. Anything that's just like they just ask our little jam band to play because we'll come in for free and just jam. And it costs the business a little bit to pay the teacher, but it's totally worth it because the kids love doing that, and it's a lot of fun for everybody. So how does this work? So the first page that I have here, which is called the rhythmic note value page, this is where it starts. Because these students are learning the songs. We're not just teaching them by rote, they are learning them. So the first place we go is these rhythmic note values. And I teach them a very specific way in that I teach it by feel it, speak it, see it, write it, say it, play it. So the first thing they do is they just play these rhythmic note values, and I'm not saying anything. Our teachers, I trained all our teachers to do this. So the first thing you do is you're with a student and you're just playing these quarter notes, do, then do, which are 2 8s, 2 8s, 2 8s, 16 8s, 16 8, half note. The rest are claps, half rest, quarter dot 8, quarter dot 8, quarter dot 8, 16, 8, 16, 8, 8, 16, 8, 16, triplet, triplet. So they're learning all these rhythmic note values, first of all, just by feeling it. Second time they do it is they say it. So they're learning their names after they've already played it. They know they can do it. And sometimes you just do the big seven, we call them, which is like quarter, 2/8, rest, half note, half rest, like the main seven that we would all teach a very beginner. But they learn all of them, all of these. And then the next thing is they write them. So as soon as they can say it, we see it. So we show them this page and say, these are the rhythmic note value you've done. So they felt it, they've said it, then they see the symbol. I don't want them to see the symbol until they've played it. They felt like they can do it. They feel it. And then they learn it. So they speak it exactly in rhythm. And then they see the symbol and they don't care what it looks like. That 16/8, that doesn't mean anything to them. They already play it. They've already said it. They've already like met it. 16/8's nothing. So, and then they write it. So then they write a line of rhythm, and then they write these rhythms, tick, 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 mostly in patterns. We try to train them that, teach them that, but it's whatever they want. And then they're reading it going quarter, 2/8, half note, rest, half note, 16/8, 16/8, quarter dot 8, quarter dot 8. And they're just reading them on the line. No time signature, just on the line. And they get really, really good at that. And then, so the write it, say it, play it is when they write it, and then they say it before they play it, and they finally play it. So, for the first 6 lessons for a private student, half of the lesson is rhythm. So they get really, really good at it. And then we teach time signature, and that's a whole other thing, but it has to do with this exact same system. So it's not like trying to take 4 beats as a measure as blah, blah, blah. They just learn it by knowing what does this 4 mean. And I can talk further about that if you're interested. And then the next thing that we teach after they can play that, there's still really no reading, learning notes yet. We don't teach notation until about 6 to 8 weeks into their education. It's all this kind of stuff. It's this kind of stuff. So then when they're ready, which is like after they've already started to play jam band songs, we go into counting the beat. Just to let you know, we do teach them to count the beat pretty quick. Like about 6 weeks into it, they use this page and they learn to count 1, 2, 3, 4. As you can see, 2, 3, 4. And they learn how to count it. Because musicians count even when they play. They don't say quarter, 2/8s, 2/8s, of course, because we just don't. So that is how we do that. Next page is the next major foundation, and we call that the PAC, pentascale arpeggio and chord. And that's the very big basis of being able to learn their first jam band tunes. So the way that this works out is we teach them, of course, they know where the letters are, and we teach them there's the pentascale with the right hand, and we teach them, follow me, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Great, you do it. Great. 1, 3, 5, 3, 1. You do it. Great. C chord, you play it. C chord, great. Okay, now let's say letters. Oh, let's write them out first. So then we write them out, and then we say, okay, let's play it. C, D, E, F, G. Okay, did we play any black keys? No. Okay, it's all white. Now let's play the arpeggio and the chord. Great. So C and G, all white. D and A, black on 3. I'm not teaching the formula yet. D and A, black on 3. It's all you need to know. Okay, D flat and A flat is color reverse of D and A. So D flat is white on 3, and everything else just goes to black. And they don't even think twice about it. They just go right to D flat, black, black, white, black, black. What's the color of A flat? White on 3. What's the color of D? Black on 3. What's G? All white. So we teach our students to be able to speak the colors of these pentascales. When we get to D, though, of course, when we're writing it, we go D, E, F, and they play F sharp because we told them black on 3, and we stop and say, wait a minute, that can't be F because F is this one. What's this one? It's the black F. What is the black F? And then in our curriculum, the first sharp you learn is the F sharp, and they learn that, and then we move forward. So when we get to F, that's when we include the formula, because we say, okay, F has one black key. I'm not going to tell you which one it is. You have to figure it out. How are you going to do that? You can't use your ear. You can't play it and try and figure it out. You can't do it. You have to learn it right away. So what are you going to do? And that's when we teach the formula. They go through all these, and then, of course, F and F sharp is color reverse. So F is black on 3. F sharp is white on 3. E is black on 2 and 3. E flat is white on 2 and 3. B is black on 2, 4, and 5. And then B flat is the opposite. So every of these pentascales is just color reverse on the other one. So that's the way I like to teach my pentascale, so we can translate any of these first pack songs into any key that we want. And the kids are completely not afraid of playing anything in F sharp because they can play F sharp no problem because they know what the color is. So it's not a big deal. They do know the formula and stuff. So the first jam band songs are these pack songs. So we're playing stepping up the keyboard, then step down again. The other one, which is I can skip and play all day. It's my favorite way to play. And there's another one called rain or shine, the weather is just fine. You might have heard these a million times. So the kids learn to play these in all 12 keys, but the jam band keys are C, G, D, and A. So I wanted to show you how this is going to work. So how does this work? So the jam band, when you're playing these packs, the guitar players are playing stepping up the fretboard, then step down again. Play it jam band style. Okay, strum the chord. Dum, C chord, C chord, C chord. Ready, go. Stepping up the fretboard, then step down again. Back to strum, play, play, bring, ring, ring. And the drummer's playing what we call the grandfather. They're just playing it because it's nice and simple. It's the rock. I'm gonna change that though. I'm gonna change it. I am gonna do it differently. I'm gonna add something, and it's gonna be that, and it's gonna be amazing. And I'm gonna call it the NW style. Okay. So if you look at the way the pack song arrangement, and we only need to look at one, and then we move on, is depending. So the students basically alternate between playing the melody and the chords. So you've learned these three songs in C, G, D, and A. So we're in the jam band, and these pack songs become the favorite of everybody because they're just awesome. So everybody's playing the C chord. So, and I'm the band leader, and I'm strumming the guitar, and I'm playing it, and I go, okay, ready, and we're gonna play, and you're going stepping, and they're playing it, then step down again. We're strumming. Okay, everybody move to G. Now we move to G. Ready, go, stepping up, and then we go back down to C and back to C, and then okay. So we're just moving around the packs, and then we might change the song. I can skip in D. Ready, go. Everything shifts, and now you're in D, and you're just playing the melody line. And the audience is like, what was going on with that whole thing? And it's getting sloppy because the kids aren't with me. It's getting real loosey-goosey. But the kids, the kids are in there, and the band leader's helping them out. The kids are laughing because they're doing it wrong. But the drummer's playing it, everybody's sticking around, and there's a lot of fun. Then you move back to that. But what's the jam section? What's that all about? So when we're ready to do the jam, we all just strum the C chord. Whatever pack we say, we're going to strum. So the kids use the pack to improvise. So in their lessons, they're learning to go, okay, it's just like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But what are you going to do? 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 1, 5, 1, 5, 5, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3,
Could you stand closer to the mic when you talk?
Yes.
Yeah, thanks.
And so the piano players, when they do the jam, they get very excited because, of course, there's 400 sounds on the keyboard, and they can only use those cool sounds if they do a jam. So it's the keyboard sounds if you're not. So the guitar players, of course, they have, we use always electric guitars because I can't mic acoustic guitars. I just can't do that. It drives me insane. So we have, and I brought one, I think here, an electric little 3/4 size electric guitars that we have. We have like 7, 8 of them and little tiny amps that we bring to the jam band gig. And, you know, these guitar players really, really want to go to the jam band gig because they get to play the electric guitar. And it's the amplifier, and they get to, like, you know, put on the distortion during their jam and whatever is going on. But when the keyboards go on their jam, it's like a Deadhead concert all of a sudden. You know, everybody just holds the whole notes and the keyboards. And it's just like, woo, it gets really trippy there for a while. So you might have this pack song jam last like 10 minutes, 10, 12, 15 minutes. These kids are just having a blast. And the drummer gets to split fours or a doom, doom, and doom, doom, doom. And he's going quarter, 2/8 half note, and we play it again, and then he's like triplet, 2/8, 2/8, and he's learning to improvise his things, speaking that as he's playing the drums. That way he stays on, because if you go freestyle, it gets nuts. So I tell him, when you're doing that sharing of fours, you have to speak your rhythmic note values out loud while you're doing it, even if it's just half, you know, whole note, hold it. I don't care if you drop a big bomb for 4 beats, you know, whatever it is, but you have to be saying your rhythmic note value beats when you do it for the drummer. Otherwise it gets lost. So the pack songs, all our kids can play these pack songs in the jam band at any time because they're easy and they learn within 6 weeks. And they love it, especially when you're going from lesson to lesson to lesson. The kids love to play, play together. It's so special to have a little 6, 7, 8-year-old be able to walk in to a guitar player who's playing that was joined by the drummer who brought in a djembe, and they're just jamming out for that half-hour lesson. I've never had a parent go, but my kid's not learning, It's like that kid walks out and goes, Mom, I can't wait to come back there again. And that's what the parent cares about. I mean, they're getting a great education, but they're having so much fun and they're learning to play together. They're learning to listen to each other. That's a big part about this, is listening to each other. Okay, so then how do we get them to play the primary chords and being able to play a jam band song and know what they're doing? I don't want a school of rock where I tell them to play this chord and then move to that chord when the drummer hits the cymbal. I want them to know what they're playing. So when we teach the primary chords, we do, I don't know how I do it vertically yet, but I'm thinking about it. So I have them write out the musical alphabet. The key of C, the family of C, from C to shining C, and they write it out and they write it out. And I usually up on the board because this is boring, but a whiteboard is incredibly fun for some reason. And they get to choose the color of their choice. And so they write out C, D, F, G, A, B, C. And, then I say, okay, now number them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I love this. Is it 1 or is it 8? Because they go 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I go, and then you have to have that great conversation. Is it 8? Because there's only 7 letters in the musical alphabet. Or how many letters of the musical are, how many letters are there? And they have to have, that's a whole other conversation there. 26, 15, 5, and they don't know, So you get to have this fun conversation about, well, how old are you? 12. Okay, well, you're 5 years older than the musical alphabet. I never tell answers. I'm a discovery learner guy all the way. So you will never get a straight answer out of me. So, well, whatever, I will, but not usually. Okay, so then they write 1, 4, 6, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, and it is a 1. We all land on that because, C is 1. It's not 8. It can't be 2 things. And then I have them circle 1, 4, and 5. And then I go, okay, let's play those chords because you already know them because you've been playing the pack. You already know the C and you know the F and you know the G. You know those. So they play them C, F, G, F, C, and they immediately go, wait a minute, I know that song because, that's every song in the world. And then I go, I know that song. I'm like, let's do it again, So they play that and they get to know that the primary chords, and we call it the most chords used in a key. I know, they're not. But for our instance, the primary chords are the chords most often used in a family or a key. So that's what we're going to do. And so we learn them. So once they are able to play C and they've spelled the chords and they're having fun, you have on your page, and I believe it's the page afterwards is the accompanying pattern page. So they immediately play accompanying pattern 1. And this is where the chart comes in. So they're learning rhythmic notation on number 1. So, all right, as soon as they learn the key of C, let's play accompanying pattern 1. So in their book, which is not these books, it's a different Opus book, they play accompanying pattern 1. We talk about, okay, this is like a chord chart where you have the chords, do you see where the chords are? What are these diamonds? What are those? They're a rhythmic note value. Do you think they're half notes or whole notes or quarter notes? What do you think? This, of course, then you get to settle their whole notes. So then, all right, let's play this chart here. So they play it 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, which is Lion Sleeps Tonight, which is the first jam band song they play. So then you're like, all right, you're rocking out, man. So let's do it. So then you turn the page, of course, and the first song I have here is not that, but it's Down by the Bay. Because sometimes they're not ready for that. Sometimes they're not ready for accompanying pattern. So Down by the Bay, to me, for our kids, is one of the easiest songs to learn because it's a 1-chord song. Down by the bay, where the watermelons grow. It's very natural like this. And down by da da da, for if I go, my mother will say, have you nothing? Down by the bay. And so they don't have to worry about, is it whole notes? Is it quarter? How am I supposed to do this? It's a natural song to just play the chord once. So the teachers have a choice. If the kid's struggling a little bit, they can just play this song. And of course you get to rhyme and it's a lot of fun. Jam band, to do this song, the jam band, it is a blast because they all get to take times making a rhyme, and it's just fun. And, everybody's just walking around. They're not listening to the band anyway. They can hear it, but they're not really listening to it. So it's just kind of fun for us to do. All right. So, and then you can see the arrangements of how we've ordered it out. What's the overall arrangement? How does that whole thing work? Who starts it? Where's the jam? What's all that stuff all about? And then what is the piano player, the guitar player, the drums, vocalists, woodwinds, what do they do? How do they do it? So the teachers teach their students to be able to play this exactly the same way as all the other ones. So when we do play, there's not like this form problem. We teach by form. So we talk about it, A, B, C, if you're lucky, that doesn't happen for a little bit, but it's all A, B, A. So it's very, very simple. So we're rehearsing when we're playing, and they all know what that is. They mean go to the top of the song. And I don't have to say anything, because a lot of times if I'm leading it and we don't have a singer, guess who's singing? This guy. And I'm fine with it. So, but I need to lead the band and sing. So when I'm leading the band and I'm on a keyboard or on a guitar, it's easy for me to talk to the guys. But if I'm singing, I can't. So we talk about A, B forms. So I'm going to back up with a pack songs. How do you get the singers to sing stepping up the fretboard, then step down again? Singers don't want to sing that. So what do the singers do? So this is where the singers get to write their own lyrics. And they can decide what's the chorus and what's the verse. So the da 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 strum 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 strum. What do you want to say? So is da 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 da? Is that the melody line, or is that like the verse, or is that done a verse where you can make it up? I was outside with my friends the other day. We were drinking da 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 da, and the chorus. I was with my friend and she really's fun. Something, whatever it is. But these girls, these guys, make up their own lyrics. And that way they connect to it and they love it. And they can get everybody in the audience, because they're cute, to sing their song, because it's very simple. So that's how they're involved with being all that. And they'll only choose one jam band song to write lyrics to. So they can't like combine I Can Skip or Rain or Shine. It's one jam band song that they've written lyrics to that the band will play for them. Okay. So then we have the next song is The Lion Sleeps Tonight. So this is where they start to be able to read the notation, the rhythmic notation at the top. So you can see that the form is written there, A, B, C, B, C, A, and then the jam, and then it's B and C again. It sounds kind of crazy, but if you're in your private lesson, you can teach the students that. It's not that challenging. So you have the A section, which is just a dee, 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 dee part, and they're just playing whole notes. The rhythmic figure 1 is at the top. So we make our own charts here so we can do this stuff. And so they just play that and they repeat it. And that's also going to be the jam, but the jam is never moving chords. The jam is always just playing the one chord, because it gets too chaotic. So we're just playing the one. But the students are being able to play this. And so they're knowing they're playing whole notes. And so you're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I teach my teachers to sing the count, so the student can hear that melody line and hear the count. And by the repeat, you don't need to count it, because then they know, they feel it. So being able to sing a lot of the beats in these songs helps the students to learn the melody line and when to change. So singing, vocalizing is big. So they play that, then they move into the figure B, and then they got the rhythm figure that they're playing, and they're improvising. You don't have to play that. As you'll notice, as you get more advanced, it tells you to improvise it. You could play the left hand playing the bass note, the right hand playing whole notes. You can in the jungle, and they get and they get really creative, and we want them to, because it's boring if you just play the chords. Get creative and have fun with it. And in this song, the jam's between verse 2 and 3. So after you've done the chorus the second time, and before you go into hush, my darling, you're just doing the jam. And the kids love to jam on this song, because, they learn that melody line. They just learn that melody line, so they play it on their instrument. And they play it with distortion, with chorus, with wah-wah, with, whatever sounds they want, and they jam with the melody line. So it's with the melody line. All right, so that's the Lion Sleeps Tonight. Those are all in the key of C. Stand By Me is in the key of C too, because it's got a fun rhythm to it. You don't learn all these songs, maybe two of them. These are all of the songs in C. So Stand By Me is great, because the kids are just attracted to that bass line. They just love that bass line. The guitar players, the piano players, the bass players, the brass, the woodwind, the violin, they all learn that. So in a jam band gig, we all start with that, and it is a blast to hear that melody played by everybody. And then we go in, the girl singers love to sing this song, so it's not a hard time getting them to sing it. And then the jam between this is after you've done really everything, and then you're just going to jam, and then you end. So very simple. All right, then going into the key of G. Okay, so how do we teach the key of G chords? Because, you know, one of those primary chords has a sharp in it. So very quickly, we go through G. They write the letter G, and then they spell the chords, and they realize that the 5 chord has a sharp in it. So that's the F sharp, the first key. So if it's in the chord, it's in the key. They write it in there. G equals 2 sharp, 1 sharp. They do D, they write it out. They know that D, the F has to be sharp. Well, they just write it out, and then they know that the 1 chord has the F in it. 4 chords still all white. A chord up, there's a sharp there, so there's 2 sharps. D equals 2 sharps. A is the key where there's 3. So all primary chords are black on 3. So there's 3 sharps. A equals 3 sharps. From then on, they know 2 sharps is D, 3's A, 1's G, and 0's C. They just know that because that's the way that we teach them that. And then they start reading tons of songs in CGDA, the melody line too, just in our book. And that's our book 1 is songs in CGDA. And there's all kinds of songs in CGDA. They just learn the pack and they just know what to play. Okay. So now you can play songs with key G because you learn them. So here is, and I made that track called My Girl, My Guy, because we have many more girls than guys. And if it's called My Girl, they won't sing it. But if you call it My Guy, they'll sing it all day long. So I couldn't find a chart that said My Girl Guy, so I just made one. So it's called My Girl Guy. And every time you say My Girl, My Guy, it's always got the slash in front of it because you can say it either way. And you'll have girls that say girl, and you'll have guys that say guy. You know, it doesn't matter. You can say it any way you want. So, and they love, and so you see the first measure is the dun, 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 dun. And they can play that for a minute if they want to. And then they can go bum, ba, dum, ba, da, da. The guitar players love to play that melody line because it's got the little hammer thing on it. Dum, ba, da, and they will play that all day. They'll want to repeat that a bunch of times, and then we can go move into this key. And it's a key that works really well with our little girls because they have high voices. And so we're okay. Even though it's got that high E in it, I've got so, you know, they're really, really good at it. They love doing it. And the vocalists like working on their super high range on that higher E. And it works out just fine. And that's the first chord that they can learn some jazz sounds with the major 7s. And so they learn how to play that. And by their second or third jam band song, they're playing everything in inversions. So you don't do root inversions except for your first maybe jam band song, 2 maybe. But by the third one, you need to be doing inversions. And so they learn to be able to do that. Okay, and this is a really, really fun song.
Are you including the minor 7s too?
Yep. Mm-hmm. And you'll notice that it's on level 2 for piano players. At first, they just play the G. They just play the A minor. But, you know, as soon as you want to get fancy, then you can play the major, and everybody wants to get fancy. So they want to learn that immediately, and it's very quick. And they're learning these in their private lessons. So when we get together with a jam band, they either already know it or they don't. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of learning going on. You don't know how to play that yet? Let me show you. And they're teaching each other like lightning speed when they're together, even when it's in the classroom and they're playing. You don't know how to play that yet? Well, let me show you. And then you're sitting back going, right on, man. Okay. What's that?
Do you have a specific way that you teach them?
Not necessarily. Nope. And this is My Girl arrangement. So if you want to see how we do that, My Girl Guy arrangement. And in the key of D, we do the song called We're Going to Be Friends because it's a really, really cute song. And the kids love to sing it because it's all about, you know, fall is here, hear the yell, back to school, ring the bell, brand new shoes, walking blues, climb the fence, books and pens. I can tell that we're going to be friends. What a great song. And it goes on with all the other 5 verses in it. But the kids love to play it. And it's a really good way to have them work on the rhythm because you'll notice on the A at the bottom of the first page, you've got to move to half notes because at first it's quarter notes. Here we go. Da, da, da. I can tell that we are going to be friends. So they have to be able to play the half notes there. It's really good. This also in the C section has the secondary dominant of E. And so they get to learn that, you know, you can play chords that are not within the key. And that sounds really cool. So that gets them to feel pretty comfortable to be able to improvise, even though it doesn't sound that great. Adding notes that aren't in the key, but you know, it's jazz. So you let them just like, you know, as long as it's not offensive, then we let them play anything they want to play. If they're like, you can play a chord that's not in the key, and you're like, yes, sometimes it sounds great. Sometimes you don't ever want to hear it again. And it's up to you to decide that, not anybody else. Okay. So great song. The jam here is right before the C section, and then it goes back to the final verse on 5. This is probably our most popular jam band song for the kids that keep going down this road, because you don't have to. Some kids love doing this, and they're just become band members forever. Of course, we have student band combos and stuff they go into. Most kids get about, I don't know, into the first song of A in the key, and by then they're attracted to the notes, and they want to go the note route. And so we kind of drop this. Some kids, they play their first jam band song, 2 second, they're done, and they just want to go another route. They still learn chord charts, but they don't want to be in the band. They just don't. And that's cool. That's fine. Okay, the last page here on the back side is Three Little Birds. I wish I would have put Surfing USA on it, because that's the one that they love the most in A. And the drummers love to play it. Do, 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 do. Everybody had a, you know, they love that song. And it's challenging to get a singer to sing it, because they have no idea what Dewini Way is, or any of these other cool places to surf. But as soon as you start talking about it, they're more into it. But even then, it's like, eh. So some of these are instrumentals when we play them, but it doesn't really matter, because we're playing background music for people that really aren't really listening. They're just kind of doing something else. A lot of business openings that know that we have this cute little jam band will go in, and the dentist will say, will you come and have your jam band play for 30 minutes? So we send out the email, kids show up. We have 2 keyboards, 2 guitars, little things, drums, violin, or whatever. Kids show up, we play these jam band songs, they have a blast, and they go. And we get some inquiries from that, but that's not really the reason we do it. We do it because the kid gets done, and as they're walking away, I hear, when do I get to do that again? And to me, that I know that I just hooked them to be a patron of music for the rest of their life. You know, they will forever appreciate music, even if they don't, whatever. So the jam band's a lot of fun. I'm sharing it. So you take these if you want. I encourage you to incorporate this kind of stuff in your lessons, because it's fun. It's outside the box, especially for the classical world. But I enjoy it. Any questions at all? It's like 8 o'clock, you know. I turn into a pumpkin pretty quick after 8 o'clock.
So I see how this works from the beginning
Mm-hmm.
to doing pre-modern, like heavy, low on the tempo. What about for the students who's transferring into your program?
Well, it doesn't matter if you're transferring into our program or not, because most people who transfer into our program have no idea what that is. They're in Piano Adventures Book 3, and the rhythm, their note reading is pretty good, even though they have, I don't know, half of it with the letters written in, and their rhythms have no idea what they're doing sometimes, but they definitely don't know this. So this takes them into the beginning of the jam band. I don't care if they're 16 and they're playing, you know, what they thought was a Scott Joplin piece that they're doing really good on, but then you ask them to play it, and they're like, I don't know, I just watched the tutorial of it on YouTube. And then you're like, okay, it's going to be tough, man, in your mind, because, you know, I have to celebrate that, you know, that you're that musical, and still get you interested in wanting to learn how to read it. That's a really big challenge for us, for a transfer student. Our students kind of go along this path and they're fine the way they are, but a transfer student, and the transfer students never played in the band. They've never read a chord chart many times. So they see the chord chart like, oh my gosh, I've never learned that, you know? Then they want to learn Journey, because, you know, just a small town girl, they love that song. And now they can get a chart and go, ding, on just a small town. Finally, I thought this is what it was going to be like. And that's for some of them, 30 to 50% of the students. Most of them still want to read, because that's what they thought it was going to be like. For the students that are continuing, that like this kind of stuff, we have what we call upper level, and that is all like jazz standards, Blue Skies, All of Me, Summertime, stuff like that, that are very easy to play, that the guitar players are learning how to voice a little bit more, piano players learning how to comp a little bit more, but they still have a jam. They still have to be able to learn to improvise and make things up in their mind to be able to be in the group. They can't just play a chart and not take the jam. They have to play it. And most of them that have done this, they're fine with it. Oh, you're afraid to to jam, to improvise if you don't know. And that's really hard. But if you know, if it's like, just play the arpeggio, man. And you don't have to play it in order. You can play it in, you can sit there and play the one, but be very rhythmic at it. And then people will be like, that was the most amazing solo I've ever heard in my life. One note. Beethoven can do it in two. We can do it in one, man. I know it. So the upper level band's really cute, and they actually get paid. So they'll do like wineries, or they'll do senior citizen homes, and they have like a budget. It's $200 to get the upper level band, and the parents get tuition reimbursement. So if your kid does that band, you get like a free lesson for that month, and then the kids get this to share the tip jar, because we set out a tip jar, and adults tip the daylights out of kids. And they'll have like $20, $30 in that tip jar, and they all walk out with $5. And the parents, got their lesson, instead of 100 and whatever, now it's 100 and a lot less, whatever. And so the parents are like, upper level band, come on, kids, come on, you love it, come on. I'll get them there, that's how he got the parents to show up. The parents wouldn't show up. But now that the parents get some money to take their kids to show up, all of a sudden the kids show up. Just like we don't do free trial lessons, because if you don't have to pay for it, it doesn't have very much value. And people won't show up. So we have to pay the teacher. I stopped doing that real quick. Like, no, you don't get free. Well, they do. Like, well, go to them, because we don't. And so it's like, you'll show up if you pay for it, I guarantee you. And so we have a very small, teeny percentage of non-shows for private or for like trial lessons. So that's something I just did right away. I'm not going to, it's the same amount as everybody else. And if you don't want to do it, that means you're probably not going to fit into our culture, because it is what it is. We are what we are. And our teachers are really important to us, and they get paid every time they work, train, show up for a meeting. I'm still paying my student loans off. So I appreciate it when I get paid, except for this. This is awesome. Any more questions?
So are you seeing very many YouTube kids? So kids that learn
Yeah, absolutely.
watching. So how do we make that transition from the YouTube to what you're doing? It's like at 41.
Well, I tell you, back in the late 90s, I felt like I should be like giving Guitar Hero money.
Right.
Because kids would show up with that plastic guitar and go, check this out. Ding, 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 blah, 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 blah. And I was like, well, you got them here, man. And they'd get on the guitar, and they would either like, this is what I thought it would be like, or like, no, this is way too hard. I'm much better on that. But the thing is we got 50 more people out of, in that year, just because they got really good on that. And they thought, including adults, I've been playing Guitar Hero, and I'm like level 3 on AC/DC. So can I learn that song? And they got to go, Nina, 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 Nina. Like, whoa, that's hard. I just have to push buttons. So, but the thing is, I got them there. So when we get a kid coming in with a YouTube that can play whatever they're playing, usually it's pop music, we'll get like a Claire de Lune guy that can play the, pretty good, convincing version of that song, or a Chopin piece that, for some reason, it sounds like they got a good rubato, but they have no idea what they're doing. Anything that like that, when they come in, the first place we go to is we celebrate it. It's like, wow, you're great at that. And I'm not going to tell you that you can't write in letters yet. I'm not going to tell you that you don't know what you're doing yet. None of that. It's like a celebration of going, wow, okay, go home and go get another YouTube video. Go do another one and bring it back. And then we bring it back. And then our second lesson, that's when we start sneaking in this stuff. So we still celebrate that, and we encourage it still, because that's what they've learned. That's what they want. So I think YouTube is okay with that. Usually they're playing chords like this when they come in, and that's a real tough thing to do. But we're not going to tell them that's not how you do it. They're not coming there for us to tell them that they're not doing it right. They want to show off, and they want to get better. But they, eventually that's going to come in here through the pack. We do all of our technique through the pack. I don't want you to start learning lines and spaces and stuff until you have a really nice hand. And then I'll start teaching the lines and spaces. So transfer students that have really bad technique, of course we do the pack anyway, but that's kind of how we do that, which translates into the jam band that they're playing the chords like this, boing, boing. And it's really great to see. Any other questions?
I mean, this is incredible. You had taught. Do you have a classical program as well?
Oh, yes.
Do you do
Yeah.
balance?
We most of our stuff is like your standard classroom repertoire for piano. I mean, we have some amazing piano teachers that are teaching, harmonic. What am I looking here? Where you have to like analysis. They're learning incredible traditional. Yeah, it's and as well as guitar. We have guitar players that are learning classical music. Of course, the flute and the woodwinds are learning class standard, band repertoire, as well as a jam band, as well as other stuff. So a lot of those flute players and the clarinet players love playing in the upper level band because they finally get to do the jazz. They get to do something that is not in the band. They get to do that. But yeah, lots of Valerie that was here before. She is our piano leader, team leader, department leader, and she trains a lot of our piano teachers that come in. And she's just amazing. She's from Western Washington. Is that where it's? I don't know. Yeah, I think it's Central Washington. Yeah. So a lot of our recent hires have been from there because I've been so impressed. When I see that on the resume, I'm immediately wanting to do an interview just to check them out. So she's got us on track with a couple other people, and she's amazing. She doesn't know chords in jazz very well, but because most classical pianists don't. But she's all on board with this. She loves that idea. She loves playing the idea of getting the students to play together. She's never done that before. So for her, it was kind of a mind blow of like, whoa, that's cool. And to get her students to play. So yeah. Anything else? 8:15, 8:10. Well, if you ever hear of a jam band concert playing anywhere, we're not gonna have time, but I brought some stuff so we could choose one or two. So you could be a band member for life, a jam band member for life, because I brought some t-shirts. But we're not gonna get to it, unfortunately. But they're a lot of fun. We'd be able to improvise, but you can kind of see the instruments that we bring. That's the keyboard we bring. I like that keyboard because it uses batteries. I don't deal with extension cables and plugins and stuff. Yeah, and I hate doing it. And we did the rechargeable batteries for a long time, but that became a bust. Yeah, they recharged about 3 times, and then the charging machine would get lost, and then you're at a gig and you don't have any. So we always brought in backup batteries, and pretty soon we were using all backup batteries and no rechargeable. Like, no, we got to rechargeables. Those are expensive batteries, and I tried to do in the studio. We use it, but down doing jam band gigs, we always load the jam band keyboard with because they just don't last very long either. And if you're not right on top of it and changing it, they could go out right in the middle of the little jam band gig, and you don't want a little 8-year-old crying about it. Yep. So we don't. Unless it's a pretty good size, all the keyboards are just that volume on 10. And the guitar players are on this little thing, and they can go up to 5, not 11. And but that's how that works. But if we're doing something, we always have a sound system because we have a little speaker, because the microphone for the singer has to be there. And if we want to, we can plug in the keyboards into it. If we have a kid that's really, really good. The last thing about the jam band is they all do a solo because they're all working in private lessons. So when you do a jam band gig, yes, the jam band plays, but then we all take a break and each of them does the solo piece that they're working on in their lessons for everybody. And then we get together and do the same songs again. Because we only do like 2 or 3 songs a gig because we say what we're going to do ahead of time. So the kids that know the song can show up. So we only know 3 songs. So we do 3 songs really long, and then we take a break. Everybody plays their solo piece. We do the 3 songs again, and then we'll break. They can do the solo piece. And if we have to, we'll do the 3 songs again. But by that time, it's almost all improv the entire time we play the 3 songs. Because there's like, I'm feeling so good. I'm going to play the G instead of the D. And you're like, whoo. But they love it, and they're smiling, and they're having a great time. And why not? Yeah.
Last question to wrap up the evening. So most of us are private teachers, and as you run a school in more of a collaborative environment, what would you say to us as private teachers?
So this is where I would go with that. And it's on the heels of what was said earlier. And that is, I would invite any of your students, if they know these songs, to join us for a jam band gig. So if you want to give me your email, I will put you on the list. And when we do a gig, you'll get a list and say they're doing juxtaposition downtown Camas from 6 to 7. And you would tell your kid, hey, I've got an idea for you. You know how to play chords really well. Let's learn this song because it's in 2 weeks or it's in a month. And let's see if you want to join them. And you say, Rob, I have a kid that's coming out and enjoy the piano. And I go, great, because we can have 4 kids show up. There's only 2 keyboards. They just have to take turns. Where we've had 2 kids to a keyboard, of course, easily, and they're having a good time. So it would be so awesome to be able to have other teachers, students show up. I mean, of course, that's the big dream, right? The big picture is to show out a jam band gig, and you get kids that come from different places, and you're like, wow, I only have 2 of my kids here, and there's like 7, and I don't even know any of them. But they know the songs. They know the songs. They know the form. That's the big part. They know the form of the song. So that's the big hint on that. And I think that was it on that.
Do a master list.
Yep. Oh yeah, definitely. So we'd share all the jam band songs, digital form, and of course we have about 200 songs, supplemental songs over the 15 years we're doing this. That that once they've learned these and they're addicted, they love doing this stuff, then they start learning all these other songs, and then the teacher will tell the other teacher, hey, I have a kid working on this song, Summer '69, or Summertime, and we're looking for a singer, we're looking for this, and so that teacher would tell their student, and they're like, yes, and pretty soon that person has a band that they get to play with only at lessons. If they want to do it in a recital, that's fine too, but really they just want to do it. So that's kind of how that would work, which would be the same thing with you all. We'd be able to say, hey, Rob, I have a student that's playing the song. They're looking for a, and I'd go, yes, I'll send it to my team. And they go, I've got a, so they would send their to their lesson, and then you guys would play it. I think that'd be really cool. That would be like a dream. And of course, Polyroo, the end of the year concert that we do, Polyroo Music Festival, Poly Mini, Roo, like the beginnings of a broth. ROUX, I just call it the mini makings of a musical broth, blah, 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 blah. And it's at Ridgefield at the Pioneer or at the Old Liberty Theater pre-COVID. And we did 4 shows last time, 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. And we had about, 300 people playing. And it's half of them are my students and half of them are just students around the community that just show up, and they have to let me know they want to do it. They send me a little tape, and I have a team that does all that. Sometimes we audition and they do all that, and they just line them on up, and we just have a little festival. So we have bands coming up looking for a singer. So they'll be there and like looking for a singer and looking for a guitar player. And that's a place for people to mix and mingle and, make a roo. Yeah. Thank you for having me here. Appreciate it.
I think your school is just amazing, so unique and interesting, and well, with that, can we give our presenters one final applause? And thank you for joining us online, Lily. We miss you here in person. And
Thank you. It was great. And thank you for moving the microphone.
you gotta keep up with my microphone moving. Okay, well, I think we're gonna close down the online session for the evening. You guys are free to stay as long as you want, but I know everyone turns into pumpkins at some point. Or but so thankful for this year, and you guys are incredible, and thank you so much.
Nice job.
Thank you, Elizabeth.